I slept that night in a little palm hut which had been built by some previous traveler, and which was fortunately unoccupied for the time being. It was rather broken down and dilapidated, not even possessing a door, and as I lay on my narrow camp bed I could see the stars twinkling through the broken roof. I little knew then what adventures awaited me in this neighborhood, and if I had realized that at that very time 2 savage brutes were prowling round, seeking whom they might devour, I hardly think I should have slept so peacefully. The next morning I was up betimes, eager to make acquaintance with my new surroundings. My first impression on coming out of the hut was that I was hemmed in on all sides with a dense growth of impenetrable jungle. On scrambling to the top of a little hill close at hand, I found that the whole country, as far as I could see, was covered with low, stunted trees, thick undergrowth, and wait-a-bit thorns. The only clearing, indeed, appeared to be where the narrow track for the railway had been cut. This interminable nykia, or wilderness of whitish and leafless dwarf trees, presented a ghastly and sun-stricken appearance. Here and there a ridge of dark red, heat-blistering rock jutted out above the jungle and added its rugged barrenness to the dreariness of the picture. Away to the northeast stretched the unbroken line of the Dungu escarpment, while far off to the south I could just catch a glimpse of the snow-capped top of towering Kilimanjaro. The one redeeming feature of the neighborhood was the river from which Tsavo takes its name. This swiftly flowing stream, always cold, page 5, always running, the latter being an exceptional attribute in this part of East Africa. The fringe of lofty green trees along its banks formed a welcome relief to the general monotony of the landscape. When I had thus obtained a rough idea of the neighborhood, I returned to my hut and began, in earnest, to make preparations for my stay in this outlandish place. The stores were unpacked, and my boys pitched my tent in a little clearing close to the shelter where I had slept the night before, and not far from the main camp. Railhead had at this time just reached the western side of the river, and some thousands of Indian coolies and other workmen were encamped there. As the line had to be pushed on with all speed, a diversion had been made, and the river crossed by means of a temporary bridge. My principal work was to erect the permanent structure, and to complete all the other works for a distance of 30 miles on each side of Tsavo. I accordingly made a survey of what had to be done, and sent my requisition for labor, tools, and material to the headquarters at Kilindini. Of course, the natives of this part of Africa knew nothing about technical work, or indeed work of any kind save carrying a load on the head, so the majority of our artisans and laborers had to be imported from India. In a short time, workmen and supplies came pouring in, and the noise of hammers and sledges, drilling and blasting, echoed merrily throughout the district. The first victims. Unfortunately, this happy state of affairs did not continue for long, and our work was soon interrupted in a rude and startling manner. I had been only a few days at Tsavo when 1 or 2 workmen mysteriously disappeared, and I was told that they had been carried off from their tents and devoured by lions. At the time, I did not credit this story and thought it much more likely that the unfortunate men were victims of foul play.